Varkala smelled exactly as she remembered: salt and coconut oil, and the particular sweetness of rain-damp stone. Nadia had not let herself come back in 5 years. She stood at the gate of the old guest house with her one bag and told herself this was only about the place, not about what had happened in it. The room was the same room. Same gecko territory on the upper corner of the wall. Same smell of old cotton and sea air. She hung her dupatta on the same hook by the window and stood for a while looking at the view, the cliff, the narrow strip of beach below, the horizon going dark at its edge. She saw him at the harbor the next morning. Rohan, standing knee-deep in the shallows with research equipment, more settled than she remembered, as if he had decided to stop waiting for his life to begin. He looked up. She was 20 feet away. Neither of them moved for a moment. "Nadia," he said. "Hi," she said. That was all. They had 2 stilted cups of tea at the harbor shop, exchanging the facts of 5 years. She mentioned the wedding carefully, watching his face. He took it in without flinching. That was worse, somehow. After the tea, she walked the coastal path alone, the sea below her green and restless. She told herself she had expected to run into him. It was a small town. He worked here. What she had not expected was how ordinary it had felt, sitting across from him. Ordinary in the way that only very significant things feel ordinary. She sat on a sea rock below the cliff for a while and watched the horizon. The sea had a particular color that afternoon, a kind of bruised teal, the way it goes when a storm is building far offshore. She had always found it beautiful. She had never known what to call that color. The fishermen began pulling their boats further up the beach in the late afternoon, the quiet signal of a storm. Nadia watched them from the cliff path, working quickly without panic, reading the sea the way people do who have known it all their lives. She thought about people who know where they belong. The storm came in by evening, not a forecast rain, but a surge, the kind that filled the low road within the hour and left the village cut off. The air turned green before it hit. Nadia watched from the guest house doorway as the lane disappeared under rushing brown water. Rohan was already inside. He had come in from the harbor an hour before the surge hit. The caretaker put out rice and fish curry and went home to his own family. And so they ate at the guest house table in the sound of the rain, 2 plates, 2 glasses of water, and 5 years of accumulated silence between them. They moved to the veranda after dinner because the rain was hypnotic and the room too small. They sat in adjacent chairs with their separate silences. Nadia watching the water run from the coconut palms, Rohan watching the place where the sea had been before the dark took it. He went inside and came back with 2 cups of tea. He set hers down without asking. No sugar. She noticed. She had not mentioned how she took it. He had simply remembered across 5 years and everything that had happened in them without making anything of it. He asked her at some point, quietly, not accusingly. "You didn't say anything when you left, not a message." "Nothing." She looked at the rain. "I know. I want to understand," he said, "not punish you for it." She believed him. That was the thing about Rohan, she had always believed him. She had spent 5 years building the explanation. It came out simply now. She had been terrified, not of him, but of what she felt for him, which was too large and too certain for someone who hadn't decided yet who she was going to be. She left because she didn't trust herself to stay, because she was afraid staying would swallow her whole. After she spoke, there was a long silence. Not an angry silence, the kind that happens when something true has been said and both people are letting it settle. The rain was very loud. A gecko called from somewhere inside the wall. Nadia looked at her hands. He was quiet for a long time. "I would have waited," he said at last. "I know," she said. "That was part of it." He turned to look at her. She met his eyes for the first time all evening. The rain shifted lighter now, as if something had been decided between it and the sea. She went inside eventually and lay on the guest room bed listening to the rain slow. It slowed the way it does at the end of a monsoon night, in stages, with pauses, as if it isn't certain it's finished. She wasn't certain either. The ceiling had a familiar water stain in the corner. She looked at it for a long time. By 3 in the morning, the rain had stopped entirely. She went to the window and looked out. The sea had come back. It was there again, vast and very quiet, lit by a sky that had cleared to a deep purple-black with stars. She stood there for a long time. She thought about 5 years. She thought about Wednesday. The road cleared by morning. Nadia was at the water's edge before the sun was fully up. the post-storm sky going from gray to silver to pale gold. The sea was enormous and very calm. The kind of calm that only comes after something large has passed through. She heard his footsteps on the wet stones behind her unhurried, not announcing themselves. He came and stood beside her without being asked, at a comfortable distance, looking at the same sea. Neither of them spoke for a while. It was enough, somehow, to stand at the same edge. "I should have told you all that 5 years ago," she said, instead of nothing. "Yes," he said simply, not cruelly. She turned to look at him in the post-storm light. "Are you happy?" she asked. He thought about it properly before answering, which was something she had always loved about him. "Getting there," he said. She nodded. "So am I," she said. Finally. And that was what she should have said 5 years ago, and the morning was clean and gold around them, and the sea was enormous. And it was enough.